Locked On MLB, your daily MLB podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, baseball fans. Welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. As the graphic right there tells you, you can please call me Sully. This show is available wherever you get podcasts, and this clip and other ones are on the YouTube page, where a lot of the segments and entire episodes and sometimes advanced clips of upcoming episodes and sometimes some additional parts are all flung on there onto the YouTube channels for you to watch and enjoy, and you can see what your pal Sully actually looks like. Nice haircut. What are you going to say about that? And we're also available on the free and easy use Odyssey app, wherever you get your shows. And if you have a smart device in your car or in your home, be sure to tell it to play podcast Locked On MLB, or check out some of the other great shows on the Locked On Podcast Network, including Locked On Fantasy Baseball. As the graphic below can tell you, you can follow us on Twitter at Locked On MLB Pods. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. So I'm recording this on Sunday, the 5th day of September, as we're going to Labor Day tomorrow. And we're getting into some parts of the pennant race where it can get a little bit of anarchy going on there. And one of the really interesting things that happens when you get down to the final few weeks of the season is that any team can beat anybody. I mean, a couple of weeks ago, if you had told me that the New York Yankees were going to lose at home to the Baltimore Orioles in a critical wild card game for them, wild card game matchup for them, where they needed to pile up these wins, especially with the Red Sox playing well and the chance to give them some distance between the charging Mariners and the slumping Oakland A's, to say that the Orioles, who could not win a game during the Yankees' 13-game winning streak, it would have been absurd. But that's what can happen. It's one of the beauties of baseball. You see teams that are unlikely, like the Colorado Rockies, playing, maybe not on Sunday, but in the previous games, they played a huge spoiler role against the Atlanta Braves, who are trying to make hay with the National League East. And the Miami Marlins, really, they didn't win today against Philadelphia. They lost an extra inning game, but the Marlins showed a lot. They showed a lot of character. They showed a lot of clutchability, and they showed that pride. Teams don't want to have their name circled on a calendar as an easy win. These are major leaguers. Whether or not they're having a good season or not, they want to look up and say, hey, you're not going to push us over. We're not going to be easy dominoes. And you saw that with the Orioles with their big comeback victory that they had today. You saw that with the Twins holding off the Rays today. You saw that with Cleveland, who made sure the Red Sox were stymied after rally after rally after rally was killed. You saw that with the Rockies saying, hey, you're not going to do this to us, Braves. We're not a playoff team, but we're major leaguers. And you certainly saw that with the Miami Marlins and what they did. And the Philadelphia Phillies could not have gone into this weekend series any hotter than they did against Miami. And they had just won a slew of games. I'm going to go to baseballreference.com, this is Where's website in the history of planet Earth, to just double check something. That's right. They swept the series against the Washington Nationals after sweeping or taking 3 out of 4 from the Arizona Diamondbacks. And they went from 5.5 back with a sub 500 ERA on Friday, August 27th, to having a winning record and being within 2 games of first place on Friday. That is a tremendous swing. And then they found themselves in Miami, and Miami clobbered them with Gibson on the mound, who at one point looked like was an American League Cy Young contender, got clobbered in game 1. And then the Marlins came back to win game 2, and they took the series from them. Now, granted, the Phillies managed to salvage 1 game in extra innings, where they were 1 swing away from losing that game twice. But in the end, teams like the Marlins, teams like the Rocks, teams like the Orioles, teams like the Indians, or teams that are not making the postseason this year, are going to have a certain amount of pride and are circling their own calendars to say, we're going to beat these, we're going to win these games. Which brings me to one of the things I wanted to talk about today. And something I want to make extraordinarily clear, whether or not you're watching here on the YouTube channel, whether you're following me on Twitter, as I mentioned before, I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter. You can see that on the YouTube page. I have a tremendous amount of respect for teams that show up, that have that sense of fight and that battle in them. And man, oh man, did I get an interesting comment on YouTube. And I have to just say, I love getting comments. And if you like this show, whether it's on YouTube or on, if you use Apple Podcasts or whatever it is, please, please, please leave a comment. Please, please, please leave a review. Please, please, please leave your thoughts. Notice how I phrase that. I did not say, please, please, please give me a 5-star review. Please, please, please say something nice. Because if you want to give me a 5-star review, great. If you don't, great. Tell me why. If you think that I'm doing something you don't like, tell me. If you think that I'm doing something bad or I'm an idiot, let me know. I may agree with you. There are some people in my life who would too. Or I might say, you misinterpreted this. But man, oh man, I got a couple of comments on the YouTube page from I'm going to call this person a loyal listener. I'm going to say it's a him because he lists his name as Kevin Clements. Hey, Kevin, if you're listening to this and watching this, how you doing, buddy? I'm doing good. Thank you for asking. Now, you wrote to me on a video that I posted about my love for baseball when it gets to be September, that these are the points of the year where everything's feeling good, everything's feeling great. I'm going to not say the bad words, the dirty words that are said on here, because I don't want a explicit rating on this, but you could probably figure out the words that this fellow was using. Says, Sully, that's me. Why are you so hateful against the Marlins? F off, a-hole. I'm a father. How dare you speak to me like that? As Marlins are about to sweep your sweetheart Phillies. There's a lot to unpack in that. Later, he wrote, I bet the Marlins finish ahead of your sweetheart Phillies. Okay, let's break this down. First of all, I went back and I rewatched the video because I thought, God, what did I say? I don't remember having any animosity or hatred towards the Miami Marlins. I don't think hatred or animosity against the Marlins is possible. Who hates the Marlins? Okay, maybe if you're an Indians fan, still bitter about 1997, but who hates the Marlins? Every team that they have beaten in the postseason over the years have gone on to win the World Series since then. The Giants, the Yankees, the Cubs. So there's not like a bitter fan base other than Cleveland Indian fans, but I'm not a Cleveland Indian fan. And so I have no ill will against the Marlins. In fact, I kind of like the Marlins. I kind of liked the fact that they are a quirky little piece of baseball history, that this franchise has 2 World Series titles, which, by the way, is the same number of titles that Cleveland has, the same number of titles that the Mets have. That's more titles than the Angels have. That's only one fewer title, than the Cubs have. And it's the same number of titles that the Philadelphia Phillies have. I would love to see the Marlins do well. I like that they made the postseason last year in the truncated season and moved on to the division series. Who hates the Marlins? Nobody hates the Marlins. You know, sometimes they've done some things that make me scratch my head. when Derek Jeter running the team, it didn't seem to treat people like Andre Dawson or Tony Perez with the respect that I think that they've earned. Okay, I may have had issues with that, but I have issues with all sorts of teams. The Red Sox, I grew up in New England. Do you think I have issues with the Red Sox? I don't have issues with the Red Sox. I have a subscription. So let's not talk about the fact that I don't have hatred towards the Marlins. But the weird thing is that suddenly it was my sweetheart Phillies. My sweetheart Phillies. I don't know where this came from. I have never lived in Philadelphia, in Pennsylvania, in South Jersey, in Delaware. I have many, many relatives. Do you think I'm John Sullivan? John Sullivan's my cousin. He grew up a big Phillies fan. Maybe you got us confused. I did root for the Phillies several times in the postseason back when they used to be in the postseason, but the Marlins have been in the postseason more recently than the Philadelphia Phillies have. I confess I like players like Ryan Howard or Roy Halladay or Jimmy Rollins or Cliff Lee when they all played for the Philadelphia Phillies. I like Cole Hamels. He was a Philly. The Phillies were one of my favorite teams when I was a kid, but that was mainly because I liked Mike Schmidt. I mean, could you be confused because when I was in Weston Little League in Weston, Massachusetts, our Little League team was called the Phillies? Maybe you went back and you found a picture of me wearing a Weston Phillies uniform. And you're like, he must be a diehard Phillies fan. Here's the funny thing. I rewatched that video. I never mentioned the Phillies nor the Marlins in that entire video. And yet it triggered something. Maybe if you play it backwards, maybe there's a hidden message. If you play that video backwards, someone play it backwards, and I'm sure you're going to get some satanic messages and me saying, be sure to buy Built Bars. But did I say something about the Marlins or the Phillies? Am I speaking in code? Am I speaking in tongues? I don't know the answer to it. I know I have no hatred towards the Marlins. And while I have nothing against the Phillies, I have no great love for the Phillies. And quite frankly, if I'm rooting for any team to win the National League East, then I'm mainly rooting for it to be a three-way tie. That's what I want. I want a three-way tie for the National League East. If I have any wish that I would have talking to a genie about the National League East in 2021, that's what I would want, because none of those teams, the Atlanta, Philadelphia, or the Mets, none of those teams would be a wild card team. They would not pass Los Angeles. They would not pass San Francisco. And chances are they wouldn't pass San Diego or Cincinnati. So that would be three teams bunched together. And only one of them gets to go to the playoffs. I would love to see how that pile of spaghetti is untangled. Or maybe not a pile of spaghetti. It would be kind of your headphone cables. When your headphone cables, and you put them in the drawer and you pull them up and suddenly they're tied in knots, and going, how the heck did that happen? That's what I want the National League East to be. And if it happens to be the Phillies who do it, great, cool, that'd be fun. I have many friends who are Met fans, including my cousin Dave, who I love dearly, and I know he's a diehard Mets fan, and I think that'd be fun to see the Mets in the postseason. I don't know where this came from. I don't. And I don't know what I said that would make someone interpret that as my love for the Phillies, my hatred for the Marlins. No. I would like to see the Marlins do well. I would love to have seen a five-way tie. And I would love to see the Marlins do well in the future. I've not been to the stadium in Miami. I've only been in Miami once in my life and had a wonderful time when I was there. A buddy of mine got married there. Actually, I've been friends with the bride and the groom there. I realized two buddies of mine got married there. I was the only time I've ever been to Miami in my life was back in 2002. Had a lovely time there. Miami seems great. I love Philadelphia, and I love the history in Philadelphia. As some of you know, I'm a big American Revolution buff. So I have no problem with either city or either team. I'd like to see them both do well. For the statement in the second comment that my buddy Kevin Clements made, he said, "I bet the Marlins finish ahead of your sweetheart Phillies." Again, the Phillies are somehow the team that I root for. That would be a tall order, especially with only 25, 26 games to play. If the Marlins went 20-5 the rest of the way, 20-5, if they did that, if they said they're going to win 20, no one's going to go 25-0. But let's say they win 20 of their final 25 games. The Phillies would have to lose 20 of their final 26 games in order to have the Marlins finish ahead. But hey, that'd be cool to see if that happens. I'd root for it, but only if it meant that there was continued chaos at the top of the National League East. So, look it, folks, I'd love it if you can comment, whether you're commenting on YouTube, whether you're commenting on Twitter. As I mentioned, my personal Twitter handle is Sully Baseball on Twitter. If you want to follow this show on Twitter, that's at Locked On MLB Pods, right down there. And if you want to continue to subscribe to this show, make sure to hit the subscribe button, and be sure to subscribe to the Locked On MLB YouTube page and check out some of the other great shows where we talk about baseball and Locked On Baseball and Locked On MLB, Locked On Yankees, Locked On Marlins. So all the great shows. Locked On Astros are doing great things there. And please comment, because I'm going to talk about it. And if you listen to this particular episode and you understand where my buddy Kevin Clements is talking about what I'm saying that is so pro Philadelphia and so anti Miami, please, for the love of everything that's holy, comment on one of those places, because I got to know what I'm doing wrong. Please, this is my plea to you. Help me. Help me. This has been Locked On MLB on the Locked On MLB YouTube channel. And please check us out. I am your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. I'm begging you, call me Sully.